Subscribers of Inside Strategic Relations want to achieve peak performance so that they can accomplish more and produce greater results in their business and personal life. Now, what exactly is peak performance and why is it so important? I'm Justin Hitt from Inside Strategic Relations. You are the result of the books you've read and the people you meet. I've heard that many times. Charlie Tremendous Jones used to say that, but it's more than that. Because you've read certain books, and because you've met certain people, you now have the opportunity to connect individuals to achieve certain outcomes. Peak performance is being able to create outcomes bigger than ourselves, results for other people, for our community, for our family. Peak performance is able to do that with the minimum number of resources and in a time-effective way to get that result or to get that outcome. Now, peak performance is as much the things you do not do as it is the things that you do. This is very important, especially in a society today that can monetize your attention. Think about this. Political system is used to dominate your beliefs, behaviors, and gain blind compliance. That statement is a claim, and it's exhibited in the media where they're constantly talking about the political parties and this candidate did that and there's this controversy and that party did this and that party did that. It's designed not to inform you about civic matters. It's not designed to help you make better decisions in the voting booth. It's designed to control your attention and draw you into a dialogue that in the long term really doesn't impact your day-to-day activities. Now, for most people, if their day-to-day life is good, it doesn't really matter what the politicians do, and it ebbs and flows every way possible. It doesn't matter if you're in the United States, it doesn't matter if you're in Russia, it doesn't matter where you're at, unless there is a war in which we can sometimes avoid and sometimes we can't. Wars tend to be motivated by things that are above and beyond individuals. But the conflict created in that conversation, especially in the media, sucks up a lot of resources and time, and from a strategic relationships perspective, reduces the amount of time you have available to do those things that would be contrary to the political beliefs and systems. Now, we take away the political side, we put in the corporate side. Big tech tries to keep your attention about the latest and greatest gadgets so that you focus energy and attention on the gadget rather than on the needs of your day-to-day life. If you decide to leave either of those out, the political news, the drama of everyday politics, and you decide to leave out the drama of everyday technology, or whatever that drama is in your life, you're going to free up time to do the things that are more valuable and more beneficial to you as an individual. Substitution and elimination of those distractions, as well as other distractions, can help free your mental capacity, clarify your thinking, and ultimately help you make better decisions. Peak performance isn't necessarily about doing more. It's about achieving those things that have greater value and meaning to your life. It's being able to achieve a peak state where you have enhanced mental clarity and internal control over your mind. Think about this. Now, the drama in the two examples I given were political, and it could be the marketing campaigns, it could be economic, it could be emotional within your family, but the clarity of focus and the ability to guide your mind towards meaningful plans is what we call peak performance. So are you too busy in daily life to recover from previous stresses, and you start building up this trauma and you have this frustration that you just can't let go and you don't know what to do? Well, remove the attachment to the drama. Find a meditative state. Maybe it's prayer for you. Maybe it's meditation. And walk away from it for at least 5 minutes. Can you let that leave your mind for 5 minutes, or is it going to live rent-free in your head for days on end? What if you have a state of brain fog and you're always slowed down on your progress and you have anxiety because you fear facing the boss because you got a little distracted today? Well, how do you reinvigorate yourself to focus back on key tasks that matter so that you can live life with joy and meaning without fear and frustration? What if you have one bad day that ruins the whole week? Do you have the skills necessary to get back on track so that you can end that month strong? Well, some solutions tell you just to give up on your dream and live like a monk. And through my intentional thrift program, I am giving up every physical thing that I have within reason. I'm not going to give up my books or my computer or my intellectual property. But there are times where I have something that I have to disconnect from because it has no meaning in my life today. When I first brought it into my house, it had some meaning. It was something nice. I have a vase on the counter I'm looking at right now that it probably hasn't been dusted in years, but ultimately is not adding any value except a little color to the room. But if I move, why do I need to take it with me? There are things like that in your life. Now, it could be people. It could be places, it could be things, it could be bad habits, but whatever it is, I like to give you permission to not give up on your dreams. You don't need to give up on your dreams, but to give up on those attachments that are not adding value to the achievability of those dreams. See, there's a lot of spectators around you that are going to look at your life and say, well, that dream's too big for you. That desire you want is not going to happen. But how do they know? They don't. And in fact, they're probably living vicariously through you. How do you gain clarity? And sometimes it's giving up things that distract. A lot of folks talk about taking performance-enhancing drugs, taking psilocybin to get into a more meditative state, marijuana, there's modafinil, there's a bunch of nootropics, there's drinks, there's potions and formulas. What if those things are meant to extract money from your pocket more than to actually help you? Now, there is science in those areas that I mentioned where those things can enhance your performance, but what if you become dependent on that drug or the manufacturing of that drug, and now you've lost that freedom that comes with a clarity of mind and a strong mental state? Now, some people will tell you got to join a winning team. Now, of course, it always seems to be their team, their opportunity, their company, what they're doing. Again, peak performance isn't necessarily about what you do. It's about the choices you make. And so what is it that you want to achieve in life? What is your direction that you so desire? Now, again, you may not know. It's entirely possible you've been listening to podcasts all day now because you're searching for something and you just don't know. I would impure you. I'd ask you very strongly to grab a piece of paper or to grab a journal. One of the exercises that we use with clients is journaling to kind of find out what it is that you would like to achieve. Now, it could be as small as something that you like to achieve today or this week. And so let's say you have 2 or 3 objectives. You can develop a clear, focused plan. You can start building a mental state. You can start looking for methods for implementation. And that might move you forward. It might be giving up some things and realizing that you really like those things and bringing those back. It could be reflecting on your life and deciding what's important and what's not. But we don't want to beat ourselves up over these habits or these frustrations. And there's a good book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. It actually talks about packaging these things up, putting them on the shelf, and then revisiting them later within a framework of the outcomes that you want. See, the real tangible cost of not being able to achieve peak states and is your well-being. And when you have worry, you have anxiety, and you have frustration, it interrupts your sleep. It causes this brain fog. It distracts you. Now, I will admit right up front here, I'm not always in a peak state. And there are times where I have to reset. I have to lay in bed at night and say all that shit that's happened today, all that frustration, all those dum-dums at the office, all that irritating client, all that political stuff that's going on can wait till morning. I'm going to sleep, and my body's going to do what it needs to do to regenerate, to relax, so that I wake up healthy. So that's kind of an affirmation to tell my mind that I'm in charge, whatever it is that is my consciousness, that I'm in charge and that I'm going to sleep. Now, does it always work? Well, most of the time it works. If you have the routines that we talk about and you have that meditative state and you use, it could be a mnemonic, it could be a sound, it could be a prayer that you do, but it's allowing yourself to regenerate. And in this particular example, setting aside the problem until morning. A lot of times the journaling works really well. But the key is if we don't handle these things, we end up with the unnecessary consumption of food or material things, or we find ourselves entertaining ourselves to death. Is that what you really want? Now again, I'm as much on this journey as you are, because I've gained weight before being stressed out and frustrated about a situation. I've gotten worked up about stuff that I probably shouldn't have got worked out. But in hindsight, I can see that I had the skills, which I can teach you, to reset, refocus, and get back on track. That's the biggest thing. If your life's not where it needs to be today, if you're frustrated about something that's happened, if you're not achieving the results that you're looking for, the ability to recognize that is the first step to change and to performance and to adjustment. So what we end up doing is rather than falling into these states of disrepair, rather than being frustrated and worried about and losing energy and losing strength and losing drive, we're able to recognize something's going on and to stop and change our state to get back on track. Now, I'm no Tony Robbins. Most of the time, I put together not mental states, but I put together procedure and systems and habits that help reset and move me back on track. So just like any high achiever, if I recognize that I'm off track, I have a tool to put me back on track. Now, it's not an app. It's not anything. It's usually just the routines for journaling or prayer or meditation. It's that reset period. So instead of my mental energies being scattered everywhere, and if I notice they're scattered everywhere, I can draw them back and focus by doing something of use. Instead of draining my energy, I'm now able to do an activity that recharges me. So instead of escaping from the problem, I can face it head on with the confidence of methodology that we've developed in our peak performance program that brings me up on track. I'm not going to take a giant Tony Robbins hand and smack you in the head with it and tell you to get better. I don't have big events to get you going, because I find that in the solitude of our mind is where we need to be clear and where we need to have control. And I have a lot of background in martial arts. I have a lot of background in psychology, and I don't necessarily think you need to go out and spend, $20,000 on a big program or go to a one-time event, because it's really the skills of peak performance. So, for example, stop doing those things that are causing the frustration, and then when you realize that it's difficult to stop, like I'm, cleaning the house and I don't want to get rid of something, I know it's difficult, then I have a secondary approach, which could be acceptance of that item. And if I'm going to accept it, then how is it going to serve me? So where's the profit in this? And so I learned these techniques through millionaires and folks that were able to really demonstrate control over their life. And not only have control of their life, but it seemed like just things were magically happening in their favor. And it tended to be their ability not to have zero problems, but then when the inevitable problems came up, wealthy and successful people just think differently. And so I've learned these things over time, and it's a practice. It's not a one-time fix. Okay, so it's a practice. You got to get back up on the horse after you fall off. And then ultimately, you'll develop the plan and then the peak performance to implement the plan. And then as you move forward, the outcomes and achievement. Any artificial means to keep you in peak performance creates a dependency that you cannot carry around with you. So the last thing I want to leave you with is that the philosophy here is a meaningful introspection that re-guides your focus onto the outcome you desire and the reasonable path for performance while eliminating everything else. If you'd like help doing that in your life as a business owner or executive, then write us with your questions at www.insidestrategicrelations. We can help you limit your analysis to focus on actual solutions, identify problems that you didn't know you had, but solutions that you can implement quickly and easily, to identify ways to reset thinking to get back on track when the inevitable happens, that things go wrong and problems come, but also to help your team develop ways of self-healing your organization or your environment so that you get maximum results with minimum inputs. Peak performance to me is sometimes doing less and achieving more, and we can help you do that. I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. If you have questions about what I've covered here in this program, or questions that you have in general about achieving more in your business or your career, then visit www.insidestrategicrelations.com and ask your questions on the contact form. There's a little space there to ask any question you have. And then we have a free newsletter that has more tips and insights to help you build business relationships, achieve peak performance, and get the results that you're looking for. Again, I'm Justin Hitt, and our website is www.insidestrategicrelations.com. Thanks for listening for this segment on achieving peak performance.